Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
Written words, moving, thought-provoking, and informative. To Glen Adams, it's much more than that. At 75 years of age, Glen, the resident owner, publisher, and printer of Galleon Press, lives for these words every day.
It is rich culturally, it's emotionally satisfying, and if I wasn't doing this, what would I do, see? Sitting in a rocking chair someplace, that's no good. And my doctor tells me to keep on with it. I think he's amazed I've lived as long as I have, the shape I'm in, and he says the press keeps me going, so I'm supposed to stay with it.
In Fairfield, Washington, a small farming community located 20 miles south of Spokane, Glen founded Galleon Press in 1964, following his retirement from government work at the Fairfield Post Office. With a deep interest in regional history, coupled with previous work in Eastern Washington State College's print shop, Glen forged ahead in the publishing and printing business.
There's a difference between printing books and publishing. When you print books for other people, you get paid for this work. When you publish, it's your money in the title, and you're gambling your knowledge of the material and your experience in the book trade. You're gambling, you're manufacturing something for unknown buyers.
Galleon Press specializes in Americana, that is, history for the Pacific Northwest, and rare U.S. Western history, along with old and very rare Northwest Coast voyages. Most material dates back 100 years and more after most copyright protection has expired. The oldest reproduced book from Galleon Press dates back to 1582 by the author Richard Hakluyt, titled Diverse Voyages to America. This very rare book was originally printed in London in black letter, making its readability very difficult.
See, some of the things that we print are so rare that only single copies exist. I've done about 6 of those, and they're naturals to sell to large libraries that want to expand their holdings in Western history. Collectors, of course, would prefer original editions, but when they're unavailable or beyond what a man is able to afford, some of these things are worth $1,000, $2,000. They may take mine for economic reasons, and then mine are sturdier than originals and easier to read.
With nearly a lifetime of historical interest, Glen has the knack of overwhelming a person with his knowledge of events, facts, and details.
Only one man died on the Lewis and Clark expedition, which was remarkable because people traveling later on the Oregon and California trails, the trails are lined with graves. Thousands of people died, many of them from cholera, but there were other deaths as well. Very few were lost by Indians. Many people traveling on the Oregon Trail never saw an Indian. We have 2 kinds of history of the American West. One is the romanticized version, which is highly inaccurate. It's the myth of the romance of the American West. Now, the other is what actually happened in the history, the settlement of the American West. Material that was written, that was contemporary, written right at the time. Now, a fine example of the romanticism of the American West was a highly successful television program, Gunsmoke. They had a cow town without any cows. Their cowboys were white. Actually, most of the cowboys were not white. They were Mexican, American Indian, or Negro. Very few of those groups owned cattle ranches, but many, many cowboys were not white. We have a sanitized American West. Gunsmoke was highly successful, but they sure didn't give a true picture of the American West.
With material in 35 countries, including the United States, Galleon Press materials usually sell at 5 to 10 times its original price. Glen seems undaunted in his role in keeping history alive for the armchair historian and history specialists.
We have read quite a bit of manuscript, and we sold quite a few books. I've actually sold well over $1 million worth, but the press does not pay, and our operating loss has probably been $150,000, $200,000 in that time. But it would be hard to give it up, you know. I'm kind of hooked on it, and I might as well stay with it. What I should have is a younger partner, you see, that can take on when I drop out. A day is going to come, inevitably, when the lights go out, and it's all over, and there'll be a great deal of bookwork left undone. But you can hardly sell a firm that has a very blushing balance sheet. I've had one or two people approach me on that, but when they saw the Schedule Cs, they turned kind of green and eventually lost interest in it. But it is emotionally satisfying.
If you have a topic for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, South 3911 Regal, Spokane, Washington 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS TV.